Well, good morning and welcome back to the Homemade Haven. This morning I am out bright and early to get you guys a video of our sheep enclosure and introduce you guys to our new sheep here on the homestead. So the first and the last sheep video that I posted for you guys was actually one of our sheep giving birth, and it all escalated so quickly, so I didn't get a chance to give you guys an intro video to introduce you to our flock and what breeds they are and what our plan and purpose for them here on our homestead is. So today is kind of backtracking a little bit and getting you guys all up to speed on what's been going on here. So originally we had planned on waiting on sheep or other grazing animals until our pasture was all the way up to par. And after doing a little bit of research in the permaculture world and talking to a couple of mentors, we decided that we would go ahead and bring some sheep to the property and try to rotate them around the property so that they can help us get our pastures up to par. Now that means that we're doing a lot of supplemental feeding, spending a lot of money on hay because our grass is not quite adequate for them just yet, but eventually over time, as they are on different plots of land, as they poop and pee on the ground, they're going to be fertilizing that seed bed, and things are going to start to emerge, and they're going to start to eat the grasses and legumes and other plants that are good and nutritious for them, and they're going to beat down with their hooves all the things that are not so tasty or not so great. So bringing sheep is actually part of our pasture management plan. We did build more of a permanent pen for them here, and that's because our property is very wet still. We are in April and have had a very wet winter. As you can see, even here inside of their pasture, we have some standing water from a bunch of rain yesterday. And that is very typical for this property. For some of you that have been watching our channel since the very beginning, you'll know that this was almost a swamp whenever we bought it. So we have been working on leveling some ground and putting in some swales, some ditches, building up the dirt in some areas so that we can work on drainage to get this water off the land. Now this summer, once everything dries out completely again, we have big plans for working on our pasture to get it completely shedding off all of the water so that we can keep our sheep and other grazing animals, if we choose to get any, on our actual pasture area. But for now, we decided to pick the driest plot of land on our property to house them in for a couple of months until we are able to get big machinery out in the field without tearing things up too bad. We put up a super simple perimeter fence around this area. This is about 100 by 60, I want to say, as far as the perimeter goes. We chose to simply use T-posts. We went with 6-foot T-posts and some welded wire. This is a 2-inch by 4-inch grid here. This is a 48-inch tall fence here, which is perfect for sheep. They are not like goats that will find something to jump up and over. They don't climb on your fence. They don't try to mess with your fence, which is a huge reason why we decided to stick with sheep rather than goats going forward. We started off hand driving all of these T-posts into the ground, and after doing about 60 feet worth of T-posts, we decided that there had to have been a better way to go about this, and so we decided to give our tractor a try to use its muscle to get through this ground, because this area of our property is the driest area, and our soil, when it is dry, actually turns to almost like concrete, and it is very hard to get through. So we decided to bust out the tractor and to drive these T-posts using the bucket and all of the horsepower of the tractor, and it actually worked out fabulously. We had actually strung some string from corner post to corner post so that we would have a nice straight line, and we had one person holding a T-post with the level and holding it right in the exact spot that we needed it. The other one was on the tractor and lowered the bucket right on top of the T-post, and once it was good and lined up, drove it in about 2 feet so that it was the perfect height for our fence to be stretched into place. We did use wooden posts as our corners so that we had the stability to stretch this fence out without bending our T-posts along the way. So right around the gate area, we have wooden posts, and then all 4 corners of the pen are wood posts. So once our wooden posts were in place and our T-posts were in place, we were ready to start stretching the fence. We secured the fence to the wooden post and fabricated a stretcher out of a T-post. We just wove it through the actual fencing, then chained it on the winch on the side-by-side and gave it a little pressure by backing up, and once it was nice and taut and in place, we were able to secure the fencing with T-post clips all the way down. On the corners of the pen all the way around, we use this kit, which is a T-post corner kit you can find at your local farm supply store or maybe online on Amazon. They're just little brackets that fit onto the T-post that you can secure another T-post here, and this helps to give your corner some leverage so that when you are pulling your fence all the way down, it's not going to be pulling your post backwards. It just keeps it super tight and secure, and definitely worth the investment. As far as the gate goes, we decided to go with an 8-foot gate opening so that we can get the tractor and the side-by-side inside of here if we need to. It's just a simple tube gate. We went with the 2x4 grid pattern on the bottom as well. Super lightweight and works really well. We're just using a simple chain to secure it to the post there so that it can't open one way or the other. Now, as far as extra security, because there are some predators that like to dig up underneath the fence, like foxes or coyotes, and there are some predators that also like to climb up over the fence. So we hung a strand of poly wire about 10 inches off the ground so that anything that tries to come and stick its nose down at the base of the fence will get that zap, and anything that would try to get up on the fence, they will also get that zap as well. We did run into the issue of having a big gap underneath our gate here that something could slip under from either the inside or the outside, and that's kind of something that you have to deal with when you have a gate, because it needs to be up high enough to where it swings and not catch the ground. So what we did was just attach the wire at one side on an anchor and put a gate handle on the other side. So when we're done inside, coming in and out, we can just take this handle and hook it right at the base on the other side of the post. So that way the gap is electrified, so nothing's going under and nothing is coming out. To electrify our fence, we're using the Premier One IntelliShock 60. This is one that we already had here. It is solar charged, which is great for us because we don't have power ran way out here, and this way we can move it around the property. It's done really well. It stayed nice and hot. Everyone who has touched the wire has respected the wire. Inside of their pen, you'll see that I have used some of the Premier One electric netting to separate the pen in half. And I'm doing that because I do want to be able to preserve the ground and also get them off their own waste so that we don't have as big of an issue with parasites. This fence is hooked up to the outside wire with the IntelliShock. I have a little jumper wire in between so that when the perimeter fence is on outside, this fence is also on inside. And that is teaching our sheep to not touch this fence, to respect this kind of fence. They weren't used to the netting type fence whenever we got them, so we're having to train them to respect this kind of fence so that maybe once things dry out a little bit on the outside of this pen, we can start to rotate them around the pasture with this temporary fencing until we get the pasture right for them to stay on it full time. Over here, the ground is super muddy, so you can tell that this is where everybody likes to congregate, right around the feed bowls. These are super easy feed bins that I made from a 26-gallon utility tote, which you can find at your local farm supply store or hardware store or something like that. And then I just built a little frame out of scrap wood that we had sitting around so that it elevates it enough to where our sheep can stick their heads into it. And I also put a little bit of height on here because when our babies are really small, we really don't want them in the grain just yet. So this is just high enough that it keeps them out of it for a couple of weeks. And then once they are ready to start eating a little bit of grain, they can reach at that point. As far as their water goes, we're just using a 50-gallon stock tank and filling it up every couple of days. Eventually, I'd like to build maybe like a pallet stand for it to sit on and some kind of like awning cover so that in the heat of the day, it can stay nice and shaded and stay a little bit cooler for them to help them cool down. We have like 300 feet of water hose that is pulled out here from our house currently. And I just keep the water hose here on the fence so that it's easy access. I have a little shut-off valve here on the water hose so that I can turn it on and off whenever I need it. Eventually we will dig water lines to have a water access at each animal pen so that we don't have to have so many feet of water hose and have to replace them so often, because water hose is very expensive. So as far as their shelter goes, very basic. We did just a 3-sided shelter. On the front they do have this half wall so that if it is blowing rain, it helps to give them an extra bit of shelter back in there. This has worked out really great. They've stayed fairly dry underneath this shelter here. They're able to come in here and eat their hay and it stays nice and dry. We're using a hay bag for now. Eventually I would like to bulk feed them hay so that I don't have to bring out flakes of hay every single morning and evening, but for now this is what we're using and it works okay. It can stay in here and stay nice and dry. They have their mineral bar kind of over here. Excuse me, ma'am. Which it looks like somebody pulled this one off somehow. But they are getting a sheep mineral and some baking soda, free choice, and I would like to bulk up our mineral bar eventually. I'm still doing some research on what they might need here on our property to accommodate them for our soil deficiencies and that kind of thing, but that's what they're getting for now. We have this little makeshift pallet stall here for our mamas and babies, because as you saw in the last sheep video, one of our ewes gave birth and we have another one that's due really any day now. So this is where we can stick them and close them in if we need to get a hold of them to be hands-on or whatever that might look like. Super easy. Wooden frame, plywood, tin roof, and some straw on the floor to keep them dry and warm. Say good morning, everyone. So they're still getting used to us. They've been here for a little less than a month now, and we have had a few of them warm up to us to where they come up and want some pets and loving. They know that we're the source of food, and then there are other ones that are still very skittish, so we're trying to earn their trust, but so far we're really happy with everyone that we have here. The majority of our flock are Teeswater sheep. They're very popular in the fiber arts world. We are not fiber artists. We don't plan on doing a whole lot with their wool. We probably will sell it as like a byproduct, but our main intention for this flock is to breed us another source of protein here on our farm. So along with their fiber, they are great meat sheep as well, but our goal is to also produce some dairy sheep. Now, Teeswater are not known for producing much milk beyond what their young need, so we have decided to bring in a dairy ram. You can see him right back there. He goes right there. Our ram is an East Frisian dairy ram, so his bloodlines produce ample amounts of milk. So our plan is to breed our Teeswater with our East Frisian ram so that their offspring will be a great mix of both meat, fiber, and dairy. Now this is going to be a very long-term project to get our sheep to being a tri-purpose breed and also to get them to be grass-fed along with parasite resistance. So in the future we might bring in some other breeds from different farms, that kind of thing, to try to create this unicorn of a sheep that we're looking for. For now, because sheep are so sensitive to changing their diet and doing so many things that are out of the norm, things are going to move very slowly. So this is going to be a learning project for all of us, but the goal is to have a tri-purpose sheep here on our homestead, and hopefully within the next couple of years we'll be able to achieve that. So beside our East Frisian ram, we have one little oddball, and he is a crossbreed between, I believe it was a Hampshire and maybe a Cordale, maybe Teeswater. He's got the markings. I'm not really sure. He's a crossbreed, and he is a wether, meaning that he cannot reproduce, but we brought him to be our ram's companion because once our ram is old enough to breed our flock, it will be time to move him to his own pen. So he needs a pen partner, and that's where this little fella came in, who my husband has lovingly named Mr. Tumnus, because he kind of looks like Mr. Tumnus from Narnia. So he was a little bit of a surprise for Robert. He had mentioned how cute he was whenever we went to pick up our original flock, and so I kind of surprised him with Mr. Tumnus. So cute. So that's pretty much it for our sheep area and our sheep introduction. I wanted to get you guys up to speed so that going forward we can just have educational videos and show you guys what we're doing with our sheep. Hopefully this gave you guys some ideas for your own sheep pen or even other livestock pen. This very simple setup can be great for all kinds of animals. You may have to adjust the height or the size of the pen for your different species. You might have to add more hot wire top and bottom, in between, something like that, just depending on the animals that you have. But overall, this is a very simple setup. It took us maybe 2 or 3 days completely to get it all said and done. It was easy enough to where we're considering doing it again for our big pasture when the time comes. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted on that. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and check back often to see more sheep content, as well as other homesteading and homemaking content. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you're interested in seeing when our sheep Shala back there gave birth to our first homestead born sheep, go ahead and click this video here, and until the next video, we will see you guys later. Bye.